height is one of the first things you notice about someone, and it affects how we treat other people. So there are all different ways in which height can have this massive impact in our lives. So it affects us it's a biological phenomenon, but it also affects us psychologically and socially and culturally. There are differences in how much you get paid often. There's a sort of height premium. There's a halo effect around height. Taller people are more likely to be paid more. Taller men are more likely to be voted president, particularly women. They use height as a massive filter. People choose on the basis of height. They express strong preferences for particular heights. We are sensitive to height, and we see taller heights as more powerful, and we accord more respect to people who are taller.
Is it hardwired into us? Like those reasons about being like, okay, this is good nutrition, this is good stock, so to say, right? Right? Like that makes sense to me if we're going back 500 years, 1,000 years, whatever. Why is it still important to us now? That's a
very good question. But, in terms of something that we can't seem to get rid of, I think you're right, because the argument in other species is, larger males are more competitive against other males, so they are going to win more fights, and they are going to be better quality, and females will prefer them for that reason. They're bigger and stronger. They can defend against predators more effectively, all those kinds of things. That is not happening in your modern day office. Or if it is, I have never been into those offices. I don't know where that might happen, but it's not happening on that sense. But clearly, there's something there that we are still tapping into, where we are continuing to attribute those kinds of traits and see taller men as more powerful in some way.
What would you say is the cutoff where somebody's like, okay, if you're this size or smaller, you're going to start feeling the effects of this?
About 5'4" for a man.
Does it apply for a woman at all?
It's less. There's less variation in female height in many ways, right? So women are not necessarily, you don't get that sort of the same degree of difference between female height and male height.
Right. But does it rule people out? Like in terms of like the dating apps, does it automatically seem to be, is it strong enough of a drive that it automatically rules somebody out? Like if somebody's looking for, I want this person with this, this, and this, but they're not 6 foot. Like, does it rule people out more with dating apps?
I think it kind of does, because it's one of the ways that people use height as a filter. So it is ruling some people out in a way that's not, it may be kind of counterproductive. You just have this preference, and it may well be that you're trading on these perceptions we have about tall people and tall men in particular, that you say you want someone who's 6 foot because you also imagine that they're going to be successful, they're going to have a better job, all these things that you think go along with height that may or may not be true. And so you are ruling some people out if you specify this, and apparently that's what people do. Particularly women, they use height as a massive filter when they're putting together profiles and choosing people on dating apps. But it seems like maybe that's a somewhat counterproductive way to go about things, given that there's, the relationships are there, but they're not particularly strong.
How many people lie about their height? Is there any statistics on how many people lie about their height?
I don't know any. I would be very interested to know that. In my impression is people do lie about their height, which I find very interesting, because presumably you're going to meet these people at some point, and then they will know. like what are you going to do? Stand on a box all the time and, never show your legs or something? I don't know. So yes, people do say that they're, and I mean, you see it sometimes where people will say, they will say what height they are, and you think you are never that tall. Like, you're either completely misled about how long a foot is, or you're lying here and you imagine the rest of us can't see it. But it's a funny thing. I think people do overestimate their heights often.
I have a theory that pretty much every guy is about 1 inch to 2 inches shorter than he actually says he is.
I think that's definitely true. So I have no hard data on it, but my experience in the world is that happens all the time.
No, I mean, we kind of talked about stuff that seems to be like perceived, but is there any indication that like, no, actually tall people are better?
I don't think psychologically there's much evidence for that, but not, that I've come across. But there are health differences. So there are, shorter people are often more likely to experience higher levels of like what they call all-cause mortality. So your risk is higher, and taller people are more likely to, they are often have better health. But again, it's always like these things are always very complicated because you have lower risks of certain conditions, but if you're particularly tall, there's some hint that you might be more at risk from certain kinds of cancers. And the argument there is just, if you have a bigger body, you have more cells in your body, and there are just more cells that can kind of go haywire. And which is what cancer is. It's like cell growth getting out of control. So if you're taller, you might have just a greater chance of certain cancers, but otherwise, health-wise, being taller is associated with higher levels of health. But I don't know of anything about cognitive abilities in that same way. So I think a lot of it is just perception.
For somebody that maybe is self-conscious about it, like what would you say to them?
I think if you're self-conscious about your height, you have to recognize that what we're picking up on is not just height in and of itself, because you're always behaving in the world. So it's about your confidence, how you're coming across. So if you can walk with the confidence of someone who's 6 foot, you will not be perceived immediately. You will be perceived as a short person, but all the kind of negative things that might go along with that won't affect you because you're giving off different vibes. So I think that's the thing to remember, is it's just one facet of what we're picking up about people. So if you can move through the world easy with yourself, and confident and happy in your body, other people will pick that up too. And so I think it can be like these self-fulfilling prophecies, that you're self-conscious about your height. You behave in a way that gives off these vibes about that height, and other people pick up on that and start seeing you in terms of your height and associating it with these particular behaviors when they didn't need to. And if you were just way more outgoing and walked through the world differently, people wouldn't necessarily pick up on that.